So you have some cycling shoes with a clip-in pedal system and the cleats are worn. You're struggling to clip in, you're struggling to clip out. It doesn't quite feel like it should, so you've bought some new cleats and you want to fit them. Do not do that without watching this video. So as we can see here, these cleats are well and truly worn out. You will notice as well, one side is a lot more worn than the other. It's a lot thinner because that is the side that the person who wears these shoes unclips and puts their foot down on the road. So you will notice that one side will wear down a lot faster than the other if that is what you do. Now, we need to swap these. Firstly, do not buy replica cleats. I've learned this the hard way, buy cheap, buy twice, all of that. Buy the official recommended cleats for your pedal system. These cleats are Look Keo cleats, and so therefore I've bought the official Look Keo cleats to replace them. For using Garmin pedals, buy Garmin cleats. For using Shimano pedals, buy Shimano cleats, Speedplay cleats, and so on. You see a lot of replicas knocking around and they're very tempting because they're half the price. I've tested them, they do not clip in as well, they don't feel quite right, some of them are really stiff, some of them break quite easily. Just buy the legit ones. For how much they are, for how much you're going to rely on them, they're well worth the money. So then you've got all the bits, what do you actually do? Well, the first thing I would do is have a look at the cleats on the shoes. Have they moved around position at all? Look at where the bolt heads are underneath the cleat. Are they in the same position on this shoe that they are on the other shoe? If they are, you're fine to proceed, but it is worth checking that they haven't, as they've worn, become loose and slipped around and changed position. That's very important for the next step. And for this next step, it isn't a cycling thing that you need. It is in fact a marker pen. You can choose your own brand, and whether it's permanent or dry wipe or whatever. The reason you need a marker pen is if you change your cleat position, you will feel it. You'll feel it in your knees, you'll feel it in your saddle, you will notice it. You don't want to cause yourself any injuries from riding. So I would get a marker pen and draw around the cleat. Now bear in mind where they're quite worn and the lip sticks out, just try and bear that in mind, but give yourself a real good line all the way around the cleat. This will mean you will know exactly where to fit it as in the new one. And do it all the way around, so you'll see there is a good line all the way around that cleat. There's no way that I'm not going to put that next cleat on in the right position, is there? This is worth its weight in gold. The next step is to get yourself the correct size Allen key for the cleat bolts to make sure that it's not too big, not too small. You'll obviously know either way because it won't work, but make sure as well, if you're using one like I am, where the one end is rounded, you see that slightly rounded, and one end is more like square, and they're not the correct engineering terms, I know. Use this end, don't use the rounded end. Cleat bolts are one of those things that they're open to the elements, aren't they? They're on the bottom of your shoe, they're collecting all the road rubbish, all the water, all that sort of stuff, all the salt off the roads, and the bolts often become seized. So if you just slip and round a bolt off, that's a whole big problem that we don't want. I'm hoping this doesn't happen with these. And in order to make sure that doesn't happen, use this end of the Allen key so you can really get a good bite on the bolt. So you see there, as I drop this Allen key in, you can wiggle it around a little bit and really get it seated in that bolt properly, so that when you undo it, oh, that's going to round off. There we go, that's all the way in, and you get it undone. One down, 5 to go. You'll sometimes also come across bolts that are just filled with road muck. Just get a smaller Allen key and just pick it out before you try and undo it. So inside the box with the cleats, you also get a full new set of bolts and shims. Make sure you use these new bolts. You'll see the old ones again have some slight corrosion on. You don't want to be putting those back in your shoe because, as I say, they might round off. On this individual shoe, you can also see that those bolt holes are movable, so you can slide the cleat back and forth, as well as the adjustment on the actual cleat. So I'm just making sure that they all stay at the bottom when I put the cleat back on. It doesn't really matter if the cleat's in the same position, but it is worthwhile keeping those contact points in the same place. So this is the other key part for me, some grease, ideally some lithium grease. I find this works really well on this, but if not, just any sort of grease, any sort of protective fluid that's going to stop these bolts corroding. And all I do is I just put a little bit on each thread. You don't need to go wild with it, just put a little bit on each thread. When it screws in, it'll spread out along all the threads, and that will really give these shoes some protection. Now, this is one of those things that you don't notice until you have to come and take them off and round the bolt off, so you will thank yourself for doing that. Now, what I do at this point is I put the cleat over the shoe and actually just like soft fit all the 3 bolts. You want to try and work on getting it in the right position, but if you were getting it in the right position and there's no bolts in it, then you're just going to have to start it all over again when you move it. Interestingly, these new bolts are bigger than the old ones as well. Weird. I've just loosely fitted those bolts. The idea is that I'm going to get this in the correct position, and then I'm just going to nip one or two up so that it doesn't move anywhere. So I'm looking at all corners, making sure I'm getting this in exactly the right position. If it's even a millimetre or two out, you will notice it. You will see the difference in when you're clipping in and clipping out and when you're riding. So that looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to nip those up a little bit more. And in terms of tightness, I mean, there probably are some manufacturer torque recommendations, but if you don't have a torque wrench, I just nip these up so they are sort of firmly tight. Not so you're swinging off the right at the end on the Allen key, but maybe halfway down, just getting like a lot of resistance. You don't want these to come loose. It is possible they do sort of rattle loose after the first couple of rides, but they shouldn't do, as long as you just keep going from bolt to bolt and just nipping them up. The threads in the shoe aren't super strong, so you wouldn't want to just like get an impact gun or something on them, but you definitely want them done up tightly. So that's one done and dusted, very happy with that, but there is one final step that people often miss, and that is to check over the pedal body. Now, when you wear through cleats, you will occasionally start wearing through pedal bodies as well, and even if you change your cleats, that won't then solve the problem. The areas that I check on the pedal are, firstly, give it a quick glance over, is there any surface damage or not on the contact pad there, but also, and probably more importantly, check the contact points. So on the back of the pedal, I'd actually look underneath the pedal and look on that little sort of shelf there. That's where the cleat actually makes contact underneath the pedal. It clips in and holds in underneath it. If that is worn or damaged, that will really affect how secure the pedal is and what it's like to clip in and out. And then also there on the back of the pedal, there's the little retractable bit that actually enables you to clip in and gives you some resistance. Again, just check underneath it there that there isn't any damage, no splits or anything. It's not excessively worn. These pedals look great because they're not the ones off the bike that I'm changing, and they've just sat in a cupboard for months, but definitely check those things every now and then because it can be a big factor. Thanks for watching, hit like and subscribe, and come back soon for some more bike tips.